What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. We're 2 weeks in. We're one scrimmage in. It is a rare day off for Miami football. Back at it tomorrow. We'll be out there. But just wanted to kind of regroup and say, what are the stocks of these various players on the team? Who is a stock up player? Stock down, we'll save that one so Notre Dame doesn't hear it. Obviously, some players, there's going to be a stock down. But we're gonna focus on the stock up players here today. Just again, we have a scrimmage under our belt, padded practices. Who is making a case for a bigger role on the team? So we'll get to that. Obviously, fan questions. We'll finish off with memory lane, going down the class of 2013 as I continue my series on the old recruiting classes. Just revisiting that Stacy Coley swag hat class of 2013, which was when CanesInSight was already full swing at that point. So it was a fun time on the website. We're 7.5 million posting counting. That might have been at the 100,000 something mark of the process. But some folks that are always attuned to the process. That is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or somebody you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Hop in. Pete.
I was a little bit disjointed there, D.
I know. We're trying to switch up the rhythm. It's like Capadonna with Wu-Tang. Sometimes you got to switch up the cadence so they don't know when you're starting a sentence or ending it. You got to kind of just like keep it a little unorthodox.
Yeah, it works. It worked there. So
what's going on, man? I know you had a big night out there, Flannies. So you're recovering a little later start, but you look good. You look refreshed.
The flan jam will always be the way to end the night. So you got to love it.
Yeah, I was out there with you, but when you're drinking club soda, I'm up at 5 a.m., writing up reports on Kevin Olson and Ufambu Kamalu for the website, get a little lift in.
Ufambu Kamalu, I'll take that body type right now on the team.
Oh, yeah, seriously. That was a good class. We'll talk about it here at the back end. William Merriweather saying, what do you know about Capadonna? Pete had a brief Wu-Tang phase. He's a little younger, but one of my favorites, man. I'm a big Capadonna fan. Like I said, I like the unorthodox word choice, and I like the different cadences that he does. Of course, Winter Wars, one of the greatest verses of all time.
Josh Gross is asking for the Anajar and Levine comp.
I mean, Dynasty. That's Miami 1980s, man. That's every year at the top of their game. So yeah, you know what that is. But man, I'm fired up, man. I like what's going on with the team. I like the vibes I'm getting around the building. We talked about it a little bit after the scrimmage, of course. I was out there not able to go give you the play-by-play just because that's the rules of the game. But I can tell you, I slept good last night. I feel good about what I saw. And I think talking to people, and Pete, you were talking to a lot of people as well, without saying any specifics, really. The energy of, and we've been around, right? You've been around since you were a teen, right? As have I, really. And now I'm 40. So that shows you we've been around a long, long time. When there's excitement about the camp and about the season, but hey, I don't know. We'll find out. And when there's kind of that quiet confidence, like, man, we got a good team. Quite frankly, we haven't seen that much that often because we haven't had that many good teams. So you could tell when it's different. And I feel that quiet confidence around this team.
Yeah, this is the point of the year normally where obviously you can't make any more roster moves and you're stuck with what you've got. So everyone's excited over the summer and ready to see what you have when the guys get out there. But then now when you see these guys line up out there and you see everything across the board together, I think that's what gets people excited and people who have been around too, D, like have seen it at other places and know we keep saying what it's supposed to look like. It doesn't seem like it's a fake confidence isn't the word, but like sometimes there's confidence because there's just optimism because that's where people are at and they believe in what's there. But it seems a bit different in that respect now.
So Michael Quinones with a good question. How do you guys feel post-scrimmage compared to the first August scrimmage last year, better or worse relatively? I would say, Cam Ward, I had a very strong feeling Cam Ward is going to be Cam Ward, right? There's old videos I think someone reposted one of those that I did before the season, kind of hyping him up to the moon, and it wasn't even enough. But because we had seen him in spring, I felt really, really good about where he was at. I felt really, really good about like where Restrepo was at. I felt really, really good about where Arroyo was at. Pete, I was saying Arroyo was going to be one of the top tight ends in the country the whole offseason. And I said, and Restrepo, 1,000+ yard receiver, double-digit touchdown guy. So I felt very, very good about those guys because you had seen it for an extended period of time. Restrepo was a 1,000-yard receiver the year before. He then had a great spring with Ward and a great camp. Arroyo, you always saw the talent. He'd been hurt, but he looked great and healthy in spring, and he carried that through. Ward was already here in spring. You saw the spring game. He was outstanding and did that in practice numerous times. Although, to be fair, and I was talking to some people about this, Ward at this time of camp last year was actually off to a slow start. So he'd had the great spring. But then
you didn't tell us that. You didn't tell us that last year, D.
Well, I wasn't worried about it because I had seen him in spring and I knew he was going to be good. But I mean, the truth is, he really was a little bit slow out the gates in camp. Again, I wasn't worried about it, but that is how it was.
I'm gonna go back and watch these reports from the first couple of weeks of practice last.
Hey, like I said, I wasn't worried about it, but that was happening. But like I said, I felt good about Cam Ward because of what he had done in the spring and just, you'd seen enough. And then Restrepo and Arroyo. So Beck is further back in the process, although I feel really, really good about Beck. And then with the receiver and like just the pass catchers, you just haven't seen as much from like a spring, a prior season kind of standpoint. So there's more unknowns there, even though you're seeing flashes you like. So I'd say that's different. But the defense, and the defensive backs in particular, really the defensive backs. We knew defensive back was going to be a problem last year. We said it on the show. We didn't think it was going to be a disaster with the communication and the alignment and all the stuff we saw last year from like a schematic standpoint. Obviously, that didn't even really rear its head until like the Virginia Tech game. So you saw that later on in the season, not even in the beginning. But you knew the defensive, you knew you weren't looking at future NFL players across the board on the defensive backfield. Whereas now, that's how I feel, particularly at cornerback. So that is one thing I'd say is different. Kyle saying, just listen to Eric McLean podcast after he's been at practice for ACC Network. I was there, talked to him. That's my guy. Guy's the man. Roddy Jones was there too. Andrew Adelson was there. Tannenbaum, the whole ACC Network crew was there. That's when they filmed the ACC Roadshow. Anyways, so he said he was glazing, which is what the kids say these days. Carson Beck and how he looked. Yeah, Carson Beck threw a bomb that day to Keelan Marion. And I remember looking at McLean. He had his arms up. You could tell he's like, all right, this guy's going to be good. And then he also said O.J. Frederick was the best player on the team, which Pete,
Who else said that? Who else said that?
Who else said that about a week ago on this podcast? Yeah, and I think we may or may not have talked about it at the practice, but I believe that he's in that conversation for sure.
It's good. It doesn't mean that he's actually the best player on the team necessarily. It's just, people were calling us, you and I kind of backed up your statement there. I said I agree he's a top 2 to 3 player on the team, and people call us crazy and all this and that. It's just nice to hear from someone who's in the national realm as well.
Yeah, I think. Look, we're gonna get a very, very good corner against Notre Dame with Leonard Moore, who might be the best corner. I'd say those are the 2 best corners in the country that I've been able to see. The guy from Clemson, Terrell, is good, tough. He's not as talented as those guys, just from the size standpoint. I think those are the 2 best that I've seen, but both sophomores, and I believe they're both freshman All-Americas.
And then Kyle also said Ahmad Moten was very quick off the ball, which, what did you say yesterday? He said he had the quickest first step.
So. Yeah, and then Jacoby Thomas we'll talk about here in a second. Yeah, I think if you're breaking down the defensive tackles, Justin Scott, biggest, just most talented, most athletic. Ahmad Moten, best first step. And then David Blade, probably the best on contact, right? When he's on somebody, just kind of wiggling around and using his leverage and using his tricks of the trade, being a veteran player. I think he has that as well in a really, really strong way. Kane Scott saying they have another Terrell at Clemson. Yeah, his little brother. He's considered the best corner in the ACC first-round pick guy, and he's good. But, I mean, if you're asking who are the best corners in the country, I would say Leonard Moore, who we're going to see at Notre Dame, and OJ Frederic here in Miami. Both were, I think they were the 2 freshman All-Americas last year, and those for a reason. They have great length, and I just think they're probably more talented. Terrell's a good player, competitive, good mover. Obviously, his brother was a first-round pick and is a good NFL player. But I think with Frederic and Moore, just unique length and talent. Those are the 2 guys. And by the way, talking to people, Frederic knows that this is he says, he's like, this is the other top guy around. So he knows Moore is the man. And obviously, they're not competing against each other, but being on the same stage, I think Frederic wants to show he is the best corner in the country, with all the respect in the world to Moore, who everybody knows is the real deal. Is going to be a problem for Miami when we play him on the 31st.
So let's get into some of these guys, D, that, we would kind of classify as stock up. You want to start?
Yeah, let's start with where we're going to start here. How about let's start with a pair of guys. I'm going to start with a pair of guys, Pete, who I'm putting in the same bucket or similar bucket, which is Keelan Marion, the wide receiver out of BYU, and Ray Joseph, the wide receiver that signed 2 years ago, class of 2023, 4-star from Miami Edison, committed to Clemson. We flipped him. Punt returner last year, didn't really get going. But I think with the weight loss, or at least, again, I don't know if I had to find out if he actually did lose weight, but just seeing his body type, he looks quicker and faster. The confidence, I think he's trending up. I think Keelan Marion is trending up. And what you're seeing is more contact in practice, right? You're getting pads on. You had the scrimmage on Sunday. So when you think about both Marion, who's a legit 200-pounder, and then Ray, who's built like a running back, and both these guys have great balance, they really are like running backs. So when you have that element, in 7-on-7 running around, you're not going to see that as much. But when you have more tackling involved, you see that these guys can break tackles, can make plays, can take short catches. Maybe a 2-yard pass that they take it for a 12-yard first down because they break a tackle. They can maybe take a play that should go 10 yards for a 30-yard touchdown because they break tackles and move. So I think that elevation of tackling and physicality in practice has brought those guys and their complete skill sets, not just the running around and catching, to the forefront. So I think both those guys, to me, are stock ups.
Ray, I remember last year talking to him before the season. I believe he was in like the 185, 190 range. Right now, I got him at 180. So that would check out with the weight loss. And it's something that I mentioned back in the spring, even that it looked like he was leaning up a bit. Just to go more on your point, I think Keelan Marion, we've talked about him. I don't know that he's like a go-to target. Like, I don't think he's getting 5 to 8 targets a game in the receiving game, but this is someone who is going to be an impactful player for Miami, special teams wise. And as a receiver, I think, once or twice a game is going to be able to scare a team deep. And I said the other day, I think his box score, his stat line is gonna look interesting sometimes. You'll have, one catch, 45 yards, a couple catches, 67 yards, and he's going to be an explosive play guy for this team. But if that guy's getting 5 to 6 touches a game between the return game and receiving game and however else they plan on getting him the football, he's going to have an opportunity to help Miami win games this year.
No doubt. And they're, working hard. I don't think, the energy, these are both high energy guys. I think that I'd add that to the mix. These are guys that are just kind of like live wires in a good way. They bring juice to practice. They're energetic. They have positive personalities. They want to get out there and compete. So 2 good guys to have on your team. And I think 2 guys that can do different things for you on the ball club. So Pete, I'm going to switch gears. There's a couple comments that I'll pull up while you're talking. I know you know who I'm going to talk about here, which is we're talking about smaller guys, not that small, 200-pounders, but receivers. Let's switch gears to a big guy, the biggest football player on this team and maybe in this conference, who, from what I've been seeing, from what I've been hearing, this is a stock up player, and that's your boy who you shared a Bell burger with, Markel Bell.
Yeah, can't say I'm surprised that he's taken a leap like this. I been all over this one, not only me but you, right? I mean, we've seen the potential with this guy, and I keep going back to it. Mario's not a guy who likes to hype people up in interviews. Doesn't like to get guys' heads too big, because he wants them kind of focused on getting better every day, as he would say. But since Markel Bell came to Miami, Mario's had a man crush on him. And then last week when Mario was on with Joe Rose, Joe was just raving about the steps that Markel has taken, the feet. I said it the other day in the work Discord, talking to a scout, just based on his film from last year. Bell probably is looking like a 4th to 6th round pick right now based on the film, but 100% getting drafted and with an opportunity to move himself up big time. If he can show that he plays, can handle these speed rushers consistently, top 100 pick to me. Top 100 pick.
I agree. So just posting some comments here. Raising Cane, Roddy Jones, who again he was there with Eric McLean and all the ACC Network guys. I talked to him a bit. Nice guy. He was saying that he said on the Manny Navarro podcast that everyone's talking about CeCe Mauanoa, but after being on campus, Bell is the real deal and people should be paying attention. Another comment was Plank Time saying biggest stock up is Bell. The size, right? He's obviously tall and long at 6'9", but he's getting stronger. His arms, you could tell he's been working hard in the weight room. We talk about it. The intangibles with Bell. The tangibles are what that you see. But the intangibles, the work ethic, the intelligence, the commitment to being great. He really cares about being good. Technically, preparation-wise, body-wise, nutrition-wise, he cares about all these things. So when you had that care factor, and I don't want to sound like a coach, but it's just the truth. You've seen guys that don't have it go the other way. He has really, really improved physically and mentally. He wasn't expected necessarily, maybe not, that's the wrong word. He shouldn't have played last year in a perfect world. He would have been like McKinney and redshirted, but you didn't have that luxury. He played, he started, and he improved tremendously over the course of the year. Had some tough times with Powell Ryland for Virginia Tech, one of the quicker pass rushers in the country, really adjusted. By the end of the year, was playing good football. Now he's had the whole offseason. He's really, really taken a step forward, and I think he's going to be exceptional. By the way, shout out to Tim right there. Buenos dias. Like and subscribe to the show. Yeah, guys, like and subscribe. Appreciate everybody's support. We're putting on multiple shows every day these days. So with Bell, is he ever going to be like, people are like, oh, he's not the quickest footed guy. He's not the best bender. I mean, he's 6'9". So if he could move his feet and bend like Rashawn Slater, he'd have a bust in Canton, right? I mean,
he's not stiff though. That's the big difference. He's not and I've said it before, the way that the weight is distributed throughout his body is, sometimes with these guys who are 6'8", 6'9", they have skinny legs, very top heavy. That's not the case with him.
Yeah, he's got like his core strength as far as like anchoring up is something I think he wants to improve. He has length to cover up anybody, but sometimes guys can get under him and push him back a little bit, although he's gotten pretty strong. But run blocking, he's better than I thought in that area. He's pretty good in space. I saw him flying around the other day, getting downfield, blocking somebody. So he's just constantly getting better. And when you already have a starting caliber player, like if Bell were to jump in the portal last year, based on just his film, teams would have been lining up all over the place to get him. And he's gotten a lot better since then. He's been coached very well. So I think with Bell, arrow up. And now the question is, can he be like an elite player in the conference, which I'm sure is his goal.
Getting some questions about other offensive linemen, which is, it's what you'd expect when we start talking about one guy. People want to hear about the others, he wasn't someone we were going to talk about, but I would throw Samson in the stock up mix too. D.
Yeah, I mean, I think look, we could talk about it. There was the picture that showed Samson playing guard with the first team. I mean, that was publicly posted, so you saw that. He's gotten in the mix, guard, got in the mix at tackle. He's somebody who is trying to be versatile and trying to play. And Mirabal absolutely loves him and is talking him up at every chance he gets. There's a reason why he's still here. I think Mirabal is a huge reason for that, both in terms of like Samson wanting to be here and also us wanting him to be here, right? So the fact that he's still here is telling. I think they want him to be a future starter, potentially as early as this year. things happen in an offensive line season. We've been pretty lucky with injuries. Last year, you did have Rivers go down, Bell step in. We'll see what happens with Sampson, but certainly his playing time in practice, the way the team's just kind of treating him, he every bit of a stock up guy on the offensive line.
Yep, agreed.
So, Pete, give me someone here that you think you want to highlight as a stock up player.
I'll go to the other side of the ball and I'll say Jacoby Thomas. He's someone that we've been aware of what he brings to the game physically, and I think the question, just because that wasn't the role that he was used in, or at least there wasn't a lot of stuff out there of him being asked to be in coverage essentially at Tennessee, and it looks like early on he's held his own.
Yeah, the first thing you notice with him is just how strong he is. I mean, this is a big dude, man. He is physical. He is strong. He looks like a fifth year player. Let me see exactly how old he is. He's another one of these old guys on the team, originally from Middle Tennessee State. Played up. I watched his high school video. He was in Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, Tullahoma, Tennessee, which I'm not exactly. If you have any Tennessee folks in the chat, let me know where Tullahoma is. If that's a small town or what that was. But he kind of played everywhere, 6'2", 190 in high school. Played all positions, quarterback, receiver. You see him just doing athletic things in high school, more athletic than, like, again, Amari Carter, who he's compared to sometimes. Goes to Middle Tennessee State. They beat the Hurricanes. He has some success. Ultimately transfers to Tennessee. Was poised to start this year now here at the University of Miami. But the tone setting we've talked about is something that we need at this program. Just the guy that's a little edgy, just has that little itch to knock people out. We just have lacked that dynamic. I don't think, if I asked the Chad, who was the hardest hitter on the team last year, I mean, I guess Malinois, but he was more of to me, a big athlete and
Wesley.
A physical player, and then like a killer. Yeah, real Wesley. But I mean, how many just head knockers were there last year? There weren't a ton, man. So I think Jacoby brings that element, and then he's shown, this is one of the reasons why he's a stock up guy. He's shown he can make plays in the passing game. He can read the quarterback. He can break on the ball. He can disrupt things and make things happen. So I'm bullish on Jacoby Thomas. Is he going to be a Sean Taylor top 10 pick? I don't know if that's kind of where his path is. But as far as like helping the Miami Hurricanes win football games in 2025, I think he's definitely suited to do it. And he really fits what we need at that spot, because we just did not have a lot of physicality anywhere on the team last year, and that is what Jacoby Thomas brings. As Kyle points out, he had a viral clip destroying an OU player on the sideline, also had several interceptions at Middle Tennessee State. Yeah, this is a guy, he's not just this is not like another linebacker, man. This is a guy, just pulling up the stats here. He had a pick six at Middle Tennessee State. For his career, talking about 4 interceptions, including 4 in one season as a redshirt freshman at Middle Tennessee. So he's had production, and he's someone I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And again, with for me, what I've been impressed with, I've seen him in some of these one-on-ones and held his own against, like, Elijah Lofton should be a really tough matchup for him, and he's held his own in a couple matchups I've seen there. Alex Bauman should be a tough matchup as well, and he's been right in their hip pocket.
Yeah, shout out to my guy Felix right there in the chat. So switching gears to the other side of the ball, and we talked about some wide receivers, some more veteran wide receivers earlier. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the freshman wide receivers. We've said so much about Malachi Toney. I think he is as good as it gets. I'm a believer, big time, in Malachi Toney. What more can I say at this point about him? Dalen Upshaw talked him up as well. But man, Josh Moore, the trend line with him. You knew he had the size. You knew he had the body control. You knew he could run. But I just think you're starting to see that arrow really point up as he's going against more experienced corners, as he's playing with more experienced offensive players next to him, and as he's making plays, going up and getting the ball, mossing guys, using his body, tracking the football, getting downfield, not just lumbering down. There's not a Darrell Langham, who, all respect to Darrell Langham, he made some of the clutchest catches in Miami history. This is just a different kind of athlete. And you heard a lot of hype about Dallas Wilson in Florida. right? De'Corian Moore is going to get a lot of hype up there in Oregon. Obviously, Malachi Tony's getting hype here. But if you're Josh Moore, I think you're saying, man, I want to show everybody that I'm that freshman star that people should be talking about. I'm the Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams. Is it going to happen? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying he is really starting to bring it and push himself into the conversation as a 2025 highly relevant player.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. I think that the flashes were there in the spring, and I think the consistency continues to come with him. He's just, I think, undeniable would be the word right now with him, because he's just like, you hear about guys who rise to the top, and I don't see how you can keep him off the field, D.
Yeah, he brings such a different element. We always talk about Carson Beck and what he did with Colby Young. Just the fact that he likes bigger guys. He likes throwing to back shoulder, right? He likes using the size of his receivers in a way that I think is pretty special at quarterback. He just has really good placement of the ball for guys that are not generating a ton of separation. And this guy can separate too. But what I'm saying is that Carson Beck just loves those back shoulders and he loves to place it. And I think Josh Moore brings that element probably more so than anyone on the team. Maybe you put CJ Daniels in that category, but Tony's a smaller receiver. Joseph's a smaller receiver. Marion's a speedier receiver. Tony Johnson's a smaller receiver. JoJo Trader he can do some of that stuff, but he's not as physically strong as some of these other guys. So I think when you add more to the mix, he's the most similar to a Colby Young, but just a better player than Colby Young, a more better talent than Colby Young was. Obviously, they got to do it, so I'm not going to say it's done, but I do think a better talent overall than what we saw with Colby Young. And Colby Young was Beck's number one receiver, by his own words, his favorite receiver last year before the suspension. So I think that's something. Question with Jake, he's asking, what does Josh Moore need to improve upon the most? A big guy getting off press, intermediate route running. Seems like he has long speed, but lacks some suddenness at the line of scrimmage. I mean, just normal big receiver stuff. You hit on a lot of it, right? That he is twitchy. I mean, this guy does backflips. He jumps over fences. Me and UP, we always talk about that story where we were at camp and he caught that in-break and route and he was going so fast that he couldn't slow down. He just jumped over the fence behind the end zone. So this is an explosive player, a twitchy player, but the stuff
I'll give a quick example, and I'm not going to give away too much from yesterday, D, but I've seen practice too. Like, there was one time when the receivers were going through individual drills and they're working on releases, right? And Josh Moore, out of the 3 reps that he got in this drill, like the first rep, Kevin Beard was not happy with at all. The second one was better. The third one was good, but 1 out of 3 is not gonna get the job done there. I heard yesterday near the end of the scrimmage when Moore had a great day, maybe at the end got a little bit lackadaisical in his effort and something, and Beard was ripping him, right? So you eliminate those little things, and he's on the field, I think, all game.
Yeah. No, that's
just, sorry, not to go on a tangent here, but like Tyler Cannon asked this question, why people are, concerned about playing young receivers. I think it's the factor that you haven't seen the production yet. So I think that's where the questions from the outside maybe comes in. And I think it's just cleaning up those little things for him.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's always going to be a learning curve with young receivers. This is not a Miami deal. This is an everybody in the country deal. But at the same time, you see some exceptional young receivers, which I would put like a Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams in that category. That's pretty rare. I think those were the 2 best players in the country last year, at least at wide receiver. So, when the 2 best wide receivers in the country are true freshmen, that's maybe not like the typical standard that you're looking at. But you had like a Ryan Wingo at Texas. You had a Wesco and Moore at Clemson. These are playoff performers. So I think that's more like what you're looking at here in an ideal situation. People might say, well, those are 5-star type players. But Josh Moore, if you look at On3, which has been the most accurate recruiting site, I think he was like the 40-something ranked player in the country overall. So
Kendrick's been listening to you too much, D. He says Josh Moore is going to be like Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think Calvin Johnson.
Would
I
be
drew a
very
lot of
fun.
heat. I drew a lot of heat, Pete, on the CanesInsight.com message board, 7.5 million posts and counting, because everybody does like their top receiver core, and I did not include Randy Moss. Because as you know how I like my players, Pete. All the distractions, the fact that he got traded all the time, the BS that you put up with Randy Moss. Obviously, he's just one of probably the most. He's like a Shaq. He's so dominant. They named the play called Moss after him. I just said that Josh Moore was mossing people, named after Randy Moss. But I like freaks that are low maintenance when it comes to receiver. Andre Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Calvin Johnson, of course, Jerry Rice. That's more what I'm looking for at that position. And Josh
Beggars
Moore is a
can't
good
be
worker.
choosers, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. Listen, I'll take a guy that gets drafted in the top 100 picks. When was the last receiver we had that got drafted in the top 100? Dorsett.
Dorsett.
And that was what? I mean, that was a while ago, right? He was class of 2011.
2014. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was class of 2011. Some good comps here. And again, not forget the impact comps here, but Kevin Dennis is talking about Keyshawn Johnson and Mike Williams from USC. You think about they had Dwayne Jarrett also around that time, who was a bigger guy, maybe like contested catch guys. I could see some of that with Josh Moore. I actually think Josh Moore, he can run. I'm curious what he times at.
So you're saying he's better than those guys?
Well, those guys got it done. I mean, those guys, you threw the ball to them in games and they caught it over guys. Their contested catch was elite. So he's not better than those guys until proven otherwise, but that's why we play the games. But I do think just from a physical standpoint, he can run pretty good. He's explosive. So if he can catch like those guys in contested catch situations, which he's shown some slight flashes of that here, but yeah. Daniel Rhodes saying typical D Money copy. He's like, I'm not saying he's as good, but name's Hall of Famer. I just like to compare styles to people that everybody's familiar with. If you're asking me like the impact, projecting impact, I think Josh Moore looks like a guy that could be a top 100 pick at wide receiver if he keeps developing. If he is like a crazy work ethic, like a Leonard Hankerson, who was a top 100 pick and is now the wide receiver coach for San Francisco, I think he could, if he has that kind of work ethic, he could be a first round type talent because he's more talented at the same age than Hankerson. And I saw them apples to apples. I saw Hankerson at this age. I see him at this age. But Hankerson was a crazy worker, worked his way into that top 100, and is now wide receiver coach for the Niners. So we'll see. These guys got a lot of time to work. We'll see what they do.
Daniel Rhodes says typical D Money comp. He's like not saying this. He's this good, but name's Hall of Famer.
Yeah. No. Hey. I'm just trying to give names people are familiar with. And I didn't say Calvin Johnson. That wasn't me. That was the chat. I said Leonard. I've always said Leonard Hankerson, although I think he's ahead of Leonard Hankerson at the same age. So I'm getting lumped in with stuff that I didn't say. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned it. They're all over me in the chat for compare. So here's how I can never win, because when I compared Carson Beck to Brad Kaya and said, by the way, he's more athletic, more NFL talent, people were mad about that one. So I can't win with these comps.
I get what you're saying. I think that they're very social media worthy clips sometimes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the next Dave Casper. I don't know what Hall of Famer we can compare this guy to, Pete, but the tight end from Cincinnati, Ohio, that I know you've had your eye on for a while. You interviewed him in high school, which was a really good interview back in the day, and that's Luka Gilbert.
Yeah, he obviously the physicals that he brings, the sheer size, but as we've both noted, and Cody Woodall said the other day, and it was actually it was Alex Bauman who said the other day that for as big as Luka is, he's moving out there, right? He's not a big stiff, and I think that he's gonna see the field a lot this year. I'm very excited about what a guy like Owen Ruskovich can bring as potentially like that blocking element. But to me, Luka with the ceiling that he has, if he's ready to go right now, you get him those reps and you let him start to develop.
Yeah, he's rising, man. Like the stock up, right? So he's a stock up guy. I think the size at 6'7", 260, being around him, seeing, like, I was looking at the picture you posted when you did the interview with him. It's on CanesInSight, by the way. If anyone wants to check it out, just write Luka Gilbert into YouTube, and you'll see he looks skinny, man, at 6'7". And now you see him. I remember media day talking to him. He's just stronger, more sturdy. It's just like he's not like a professional wrestler right now. I mean, but he's like, he just looks sturdy. His arms look sturdy. He's got big legs for being a 6'7" guy. So he has that lower body strength, which allows him to play with more power as a blocker, despite being a taller guy. He looks the part, man. And then the route running, the smoothness, the ability to run the whole route tree. He can sink his hips for being a taller guy. Really, the one thing I would say, I can always say, is the only thing that's like, I'll say holding him back, because I don't think he's being held back. He's flying. But just the one thing that you say, all right, he's going to work on is getting just more explosive, just continuing to just get his twitch up, really work hard in the weight room, just get that extra gear. But in terms of like coordination,
catch radius is crazy.
Catch radius, he can go outside his frame. The blocking, the willingness to block. Just again, 260, 6'7". This is a winning football player. And I think if you're Cristobal and you're envisioning a team that could line up with four receivers, maybe sometimes have 2 tight ends and really just pound the ball, and then have those guys perhaps create mismatches in the passing game when they think you're running, he just fits. And if you look at NFL, every team has guys like this that are just big guys that can catch, that can block, that are tough, that are smart, and are going to be good football players for you. So I'm sky high on Luka Gobert. I think that was a big hit out of Cincinnati, Ohio. 4-star player, but just not the most, like people were saying he's going to be a tackle, right? Like there was a lot of questions about Luka Gobert. And I think now you see in spring, seeing the level up in fall, he's definitely a stock-up player and someone I think is going to play right away for the Miami Hurricanes.
I always found it interesting if you watch his high school tape, D, he's playing all over the place. Like I give his high school coaches credit because they didn't pigeonhole him into one role over there. They had him doing everything. They had him blocking. They had him kind of in the backfield as an H-back. They had him in line. They would split him out wide. So he seemed like he came ready in that aspect. And that's been great to see.
Yep. That whole tight end room, man, a lot of workers. I like that room. Obviously, you need Lofton to be one of your best players, I think, for that room to really be what it's going to be. Is there an Elijah Arroyo that's the whole package, as we saw him in the NFL make a catch here for preseason? Is there a guy that's 6'4", willing blocker, runs 4.5, hand catcher, fluid route runner? I'm not sure. You have all of those in one player. But maybe you separate that into different players, and you have a good group.
D, I wanted to get to this comment real quick, not to go backwards, but I've kind of seen this sentiment a bit. Tyler says he's surprised to see Sampson taking reps with the ones at left guard. Seems like a great idea for the overall strength of the offensive line. And guys, just to understand that there's a lot of that going on right now across the team. Guys who are mixing in with the ones, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're starting, but we see this a lot on the O-line, a lot of cross training there. So look, doesn't mean he's starting, but I think it's a sign that, as we continue to say, he's going to play. He's going to be in the mix. I always go back to this example because last year with Markel Bell, there were injuries that led to him playing, but the whole time we heard this guy's going to play, and you're looking at it's like, well, how the heck is he going to get on the field? You can only play 5 guys at once, and O-line's not like other positions where you really aren't. It's not like receiver where you're switching guys out, even though you will see that at times. Sampson did that sometimes last year at tackle. But to me, it just shows you like this is how the guys are going to earn those reps with the first team when they're given that opportunity and they excel. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. This is the proving ground, right? And is it a guard? Is that a tackle? Versatility is going to get you on the field. We know Ryan Rodriguez is versatile, and that's going to allow him to find his way on the field if something happens. Matt McCoy has always played guard. I actually think Matt McCoy is a tackle by nature. So the fact that he's been playing guard and starting at guard shows, you got to be versatile to get on the field. Shout out to Queen City G. Yeah, man, Wu-Tang forever. I think Supreme Clientele 2 is either coming out now or just came out. I haven't gotten it yet from Ghostface. The first one, if I'm ranking Wu-Tang albums, no particular order, I'm going Supreme Clientele for sure. The debut, Enter the 36. Only Vote for Cuban Links. Maybe I would go Iron Man. I'd double up on Ghostface. And then we'll throw in Liquid Swords is going to be a candidate there. I love Master Killer No Set Date Sleeper album. But we'll We'll use Wu-Tang Forever as that fifth album. What was your favorite Wu-Tang song in your very brief Wu-Tang phase?
Wouldn't be able to tell you, man. Didn't
I
stick with me that
remember
much.
you were
I
texting
told
me.
you.
It was like 2 years ago. You were in.
No, 2 years ago. I don't know. Maybe a bit longer than that. UGK was my UGK. It's stuck with me.
UGK. The thing about UGK and Wu-Tang, both of them, is that they were known for just trying to do the music they wanted to do. They never wanted to really be commercial or change their sound, and they went number one, playing their own sound, like not even changing it. That was what's great about those guys, is they went to number one, not really trying to be number one. Vaughn, Glaciers of Ice, that's a classic, man. Yeah, Cuban Links, that whole album is elite. Glaciers of Ice, insane sample, just a very futuristic sound. I don't think they still caught up to that one. Glaciers of Ice, what a song. So, anyways, man, let's talk real quick before we get into some more questions. I want to talk about this deal. Like, people love memorabilia. I can tell you this is flying off the shelves, but Miami Hurricane team store officially signed memorabilia. They got a ton of this stuff from the best players on the team. You see Carson Beck, talked about Frederic, Mal and Noah Bain, you name it, Mark Fletcher. Some of the best players on the team, signed memorabilia, footballs, mini helmets, you name it. Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com if you're not local. If you're local, the team store right across the street from the University of Miami next to the Thesis Hotel. Get it while it's hot, because this stuff is, I'm telling you, flying off the shelves. There you got the team autograph schedule poster. That's pretty cool, right? You got the schedule for this season signed by approximately 80 players, including some of the best on the team. So that's pretty awesome. Then, of course, look at all the mini helmets. There you see JoJo Trader. Just all kinds of signed memorabilia. It is flying off the shelves. So don't wait. There's Josh Moore. Talking about Josh Moore. There he is. Mini helmet right there. Get it while that's hot. That one's going on. Talk about stock up. You'd be talking about the prices for some of this gear. But right now, go get it. Miami Hurricane team store, MiamiHTS.com if you're not local. And they got all the stuff available. The NIL related stuff, like the signatures, I think is full price. But if you're buying anything else, promo code Insight20, get 20% off your first item.
So yeah, and Evan Freed says you can sign up for Canes Connection, catch the fifth quarter.
Yeah, and there's a signing events where you can get some of your stuff signed for free. We've been promoting those. You got Mario on August 22nd. Mark your calendars for that one. 4 to 5 p.m. at the team store. So, yeah, man, there's a lot of stuff always happening with Miami Hurricane team store. Canes Connection, fifth quarter. That was after the spring game. You see the picture there with Mark Fletcher. Awesome events, exclusive for Canes Connection members. By the way, pull up the Canes Connection, Pete.
Yep.
CanesConnection.com/CIS, Miami's official NIL collective. Sign up today.